Joining me now, House Judiciary Committee Chair, Mr. Jim Jordan. Welcome back to the show, Mr. Chairman.
Good to be with you, Larry.
Jim Jordan.
Well said, too. Well said.
Well, thanks. I want to talk to you about this bloodshed thing, this whole statement. And I want to get to the Supreme Court in a minute because I know it's important to you and it's important to everybody. But on this, what Trump said about bloodshed and so forth, and they're taking it completely out of context. And this is typical of what the liberal media does.
No, and I was there, Larry, and as soon as he said it, I go, the left is going to run with this. They're going to turn it into something it isn't. The context is clear. He's talking about trade with China, talking about the auto industry, clear as could be, but I knew the left was going to do it, and sure enough, they just do it. The left has a template. The left will tell a lie. Big media will report the lie. Big tech will amplify the lie. And then when we tell the truth, they just attack us all the more. So that's the template. It plays out every time. But the country's wise to it, and you hit it exactly right. The context is clear. Anyone who watches that gets it, but this is just how the legacy media and the mainstream press and the left are going to operate.
So you were actually there in Ohio at the speech.
Yeah.
Right.
As soon as he said it, I know they're going to take the term bloodbath, and they're going to say they're going to turn it into something that it wasn't. You just knew it was going to happen. I was sitting there with Senator Vance and with our Senate candidate, Bernie Moreno, who I think is going to win tomorrow. We were sitting there listening. It was a great speech, huge crowd. President Trump did a great job like he always does. But I said, they're going to take that one word and they're going to run with that and make it something that it isn't.
The thing is, I think he's right. Look, I'm a free trader in theory. But the fact is, if the Chinese cheat, they are now assembling cars and exporting their cars, cheap subsidized cars, into the United States. I think it's a violation of the USMCA, and I think Trump is right. We should retaliate.
I agree.
They're breaking the deal.
I agree.
So why not try, if he has to go to 100% tariff, so be it, Jim Jordan. I mean, I think he's right. And this bloodbath thing that the lefty media is running with, they're trying to obscure this important trade point.
Well said. I'm with you, Larry. I'm with the president. We saw him do it. We saw you guys do this in the first term. Cut taxes, put in smart trade. We're for free trade, but smart trade, sometimes you have to use tariffs. He did for the steel industry. He did for Whirlpool and a big presence in our state and our district. He did things that were very positive for the one place in America where we still put together Abrams tanks in Lima, Ohio. So that's a policy that is America first, pro-family, pro-growth, the kind of policies we had when you were in the White House with President Trump, doing things that made good common sense, but not this administration, unfortunately.
What about this idea of a middle-class tax cut, a payroll tax cut? Suppose, we're doing some work on this. We're doing some noodling and some good pencil work. I don't want to break up the Social Security entitlement, but the fact is, the middle class pays most of the payroll tax. So if I cut the payroll tax, if a Trump administration cut the payroll tax, and then we offset it with budget savings, there's so much waste, fraud, and abuse, subsidies, Green New Deal nonsense. So, I think that would work. We'd be giving working folks a tax cut for a change.
Here's what I know. The tax cuts that we got done back when you were in the White House with President Trump, we got done, helped families keep more of their money, grew our economy, wages went up for all demographics across our population. That works. Letting moms and dads, letting families, letting businesses keep more of their money so they can grow, so they can prosper, and so we can have the roaring economy we had just 4 years ago, for goodness sakes. That makes sense. What those specific tax cuts are, I'll let you and the experts figure that out. What I know is letting moms and dads and families keep more of their money is a good thing. And right now, the worst tax of all, this inflation is killing. Take your family out to dinner. For goodness sake, what it costs you to take your kids, your family out to dinner is unbelievable. So Americans know that the worst tax of all is the one Joe Biden put on them, this big inflationary tax.
All right, let's go to the Supreme Court. Somebody said you were there today during this hearing.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So the collusion between the Biden administration and various high-tech social media companies. I mean, I think with respect to COVID vaccinations, they were guilty of forcing the social media, Facebook in particular, also the old Twitter. They've gone after the NRA. What's going to happen here? What was your read in the Supreme Court hearing today?
Well, the big takeaway was actually Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. What she said was something I just couldn't believe. She actually said to the Solicitor General from the state of Louisiana, she said, your position on the First Amendment, you've got the First Amendment hamstringing the government. I mean, think about that, Larry. That's what the First Amendment's supposed to do, for goodness sake. She actually said that, and I'm like, oh my goodness. So that was pretty scary. Judge Alito had it right. I mean, this was government pressuring big tech to censor their political opposition. And the way the leverage they had, as Judge Alito said, is they had Section 230 and, of course, the antitrust in their back pocket to use as sort of the implied, like, if you don't do what we want, we can always do that. In fact, we have an email from Nick Clegg, one of the people at Meta, where he talked about, we got bigger fish to fry. We may have to go along with the government. There are other concerns there. I think that's what Judge Alito was getting at. So that's a big concern. But remember, day 3 of the Biden administration, there's an email from the White House, January 23rd, 2021, email from the White House to Twitter, take down this tweet ASAP. And the tweet was from Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and the tweet had 2 sentences. Hank Aaron took the vaccine and passed away. He took it as a way to encourage black Americans to get vaccinated. Those 2 statements were true, but the government didn't like what it said. They didn't like the context, so they tried to take it down. And if you step back and think about it for a second, Larry, they were going after the very guy who was going to run against them in the presidential primary.
Sure.
That is frightening, because that's what the First Amendment's supposed to protect, political speech. And here they were on day 3 going after their political opposition.
Well, I think, listen, you know, we're going to talk about the stench of lawfare later. We got Jonathan Turley. They're trying to do the same thing to Trump. Throw him in jail for 700 years, take all his cash, bankrupt him. I mean, it's a two-tier justice system. We've got that quote. We're running over, but I don't care. I love having you on the show. We're going to run this quote of Ketanji Brown. Hey, take a listen to this.
I guess some might say that the government actually has a duty to take steps to protect the citizens of this country, and you seem to be suggesting that that duty cannot manifest itself in the government encouraging or even pressuring platforms to take down harmful information.
Yeah, so I always thought the private sector had a duty to express its own opinion, and that was a foil for the government power. I mean, this is not the Soviet Union, at least not yet, thank goodness.
Right. Jonathan Turley talks about censorship by surrogate. You can't do something through private entities that you can't do on your own. Government can't. And that's what's happening here. The pressure. And remember, pressure and coercion from the government, suggestions from the government. That is scary, because, you know, what the old line Gingrich had, if the IRS shows up at your door, if the FBI shows up at your door, knocks on your door, you answer the door, your first response is typically not, oh, joy, one of my public servants is here to help me today. There is just the fact that the FBI is suggesting something sends a huge message. So I think that's coercion in and of itself. And it was part of the argument you heard from the Solicitor General, I think, from Louisiana. That's scary stuff. And for the Supreme Court justice to suggest otherwise and to say that the First Amendment is hamstringing the government, if that's happening, that's exactly what's supposed to happen under the First Amendment.
Yes, sir. Jim Jordan, Chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. Thank you, sir, as always.
You bet.